This video is sponsored by Top Up Live. Hey squad, Titobods here, and today in this video we're going to talk about adornments. So some players are really interested in adornment stuff, so we're going to talk about adornments for your Swordsman March. So since I have been using a lot of these adornments and I have had a lot of maybe experience since day one that the adornments were introduced, so I thought that maybe this is going to be really a good video or content for those of you guys who are still confused on what adornments to actually use and what to prioritize. Is it the adornments? Is it the level of the special effects? So just sit back, relax, and don't forget to like this video, share this one with your friends. Maybe they are also interested in this kind of content. And don't forget to give us love by subscribing and ring that bell so you will always be notified as we have a new video like this just for you guys. So before we continue with what adornment we are going to do, the first thing I really want to just, put an end on the debate or the questions is about the adornment's attributes versus the actual adornment. So you have the attributes reroll. How much is the attributes reroll really? It's 150 of the raw iron. If you're doing the rally every week, you're going to have 300 per every 2 days times 3. I think that's 900 per week. So you will have only 18 times that you can do the attribute reroll for the 900. Now imagine using it with your adornment itself, leveling up your adornment, intensifying your adornment, whatever you want to call it. What will you get? If you prioritize the level of your swift blade here, for example, you will get your attack bonus at 12%. This is not just you, this is for the whole troop. Then you have swordsman health. Then you have skill damage once you are already here on this peak. And especially on the first few levels, you're going to, maybe think twice of leveling up your attributes reroll because it's really hard to get your attributes reroll because of the amount of raw iron. And the thing is that there are advantages and disadvantages of doing the attribute reroll. Yes, you will get your levels of your attributes or your special effects in there, but the problem is it can actually break. You can actually have wasted your raw iron right off the bat. Now, another thing is that you can downgrade instead of upgrade. So there's only like a chance wherein you can get an upgrade from your current state. So that's another wasted raw iron plus wasted upgrade instead of you getting up. So for me, not prioritizing your attributes is or should be your priority. So for me, you should not prioritize the attributes reroll, but instead prioritize intensifying your adornments because it does give you a lot of value rather than just getting the attributes reroll. Now, why is this? For example, you have your thunder. Let's just say it's thunder. It's 12.85% once every 3 seconds for the damage though. And how much really is the increase in here? Just 1 or something? Just less than 1 point. It's just point something per increase, and you're not sure that you're going to actually increase it once you upgrade the level. So that's the problem, that's why it's better for you to intensify. And then another good thing about intensifying is you can actually change your special effects. For example, you don't want to do swift blade, you want a mystic mirror, you want to be defensive, you can just reset the adornment, you get all your raw irons back, then you get to level up that specific adornment with a specific special effect that maybe you want to test out or try out with your march. So that is the advantage of leveling up first your swift blade or your mystic mirror or any type of adornment really versus getting your attributes reroll. Because learn from my mistakes. You have to learn from my mistakes. I have a ton, or not a ton, but a lot of levels on some of my adornments. For example, thunder. My thunder is purple, almost going gold. And yeah, it's good when it comes to the level, but where is my raw irons now? I cannot reuse them with other stuff, right? And look at this, my starling is now gold, right? It's legendary. I get that, yeah, but it's sitting right there. I'm not using it right now because I'm switching. So I do have the switches. I could have now level 60 on my first adornment here, but rather I have like a starling that is sitting in the bench in the bag right now. So another one, resistance here, that is purple, another headhunter here that is purple, another calculation that is every single bit of here mostly are, look at that is now on legendary status. And I have used a lot of raw irons there during those times, as you can see. And to be honest with you guys, I kind of regret getting more of it, but it's for the content. It's for the the updates for my viewers, for you guys, so that you can actually see the power when it comes to leveling up this attribute hero. That's why I do it. But if I'm a regular player and I'm not a content creator, what I'm going to do is just focus on the adornments levels. I could have had like 60s on my current adornments, and right now I'm just 45, but I could have 60s already if the timing was there and if I was doing that. So right now, I can switch because I do have the levels on there, but sometimes, you kind of regret that you didn't really max out the levels first of your adornments, because you can switch from that and then just move on with the others. So once you get your 60 first on your adornments, that's the only time I really suggest to actually get your levels on your attribute reroll. You can go for maybe purple before you actually just focus on the adornment itself, but once you have think of something that maybe is better. For example, you get a starting, you don't have starting before, you only have like calculation, and you want to upgrade, and then you get a starting all of a sudden, but for example, your calculation here has been in the legendary already. You're now going to have a dilemma, which is the adornments that you want to use, the Starlink or the calculation. But they are both good, but since you have your levels on your calculation already at the legendary levels, it has a good level of damage, and then you're going to start again here. And your raw iron is, for example, like me, still you need raw iron for your adornment right now to level it up. So that's going to be your dilemma. Go for the adornments first level so that you can switch anytime you want, and the value is still going to be there whatever happens. You're going to use that in the field, and it's going to be really good for you guys. So just focus on those. And now the question is, how do you level up your adornments? Now for my adornments, what I do is evenly leveling them up. I can max this out to 60, but what will happen with my other ones? Because there are bonus in there, the health, another health, and then if I max this out to 60, I will only have like level 20 in here for sure, level 20 in here also for sure. So I will miss 9% of health. That is pretty important. Plus this 1% of damage reduction, another 1.6%. That's almost 3 or 4 or 3 to 4 damage reduction. Sorry, this is damage here, damage increase. So I mean, like for example, I have the mystic mirror here, so it's another damage reduction times 2 right here, right? So I will have that. Instead, I won't have those buffs. I will only have like increase in skill damage, which is only a few. If you're going to max this out, it will really not have that much. So that's the advantage of leveling up your adornments at the same time. So hopefully you already did learn something from those. And now let's move on to one of my favorite part in the adornments. It's actually what to choose for your specific hero. Whoa! Before we continue, if you're planning to top up anytime soon, here's something that can help you keep more money in your pocket while growing your account. Titobods have partnered with Top Up Live to give you an exclusive 12% off discount extra on your Age of Empires mobile top-ups. That means more Empire coins, more Apex coins, and more value for the same budget. All you have to do is click the link in the description and use the coupon code TITO and enjoy all types of discounts with Top Up Live. And with Top Up Live, your wallet will thank you. So for Pyrrhus or Ramesses, actually it depends on your build. So number one, if your build is with a Scipio, I don't want Starlink. What I want is to amplify my critical damage. In order for you to do the amplification of your strategy or your critical damage on your Ramesses or Pyrrhus, whatever heroes you have with Scipio, the main thing that you need are to increase the percentages of the damage itself. So how are you going to do that with Starlink? You cannot do that because Starlink is a different entity by itself. So it does damage by itself. It relies on the strategy of the hero to actually get a huge damage output for his or for the overall damage output of the Starlink. So for me, if you're a player with focused on critical, I want you guys to have more critical. So one thing here that I like is the natural selection. It really does help with that. But another thing with the natural selection is you can use it on another hero and it can still buffs your main hero. For example, Ramesses is your main hero. You can use natural selection on Ramesses himself if you don't have any other slots. And also you can use it, for example, on Scipio himself. Then you can boost your attack for your Ramesses or defense for your whole troop. So that's what your natural selection can do, and it's pretty neat, to be honest with you guys, on having at least one of the natural selection for me, because once it hits, especially with Pyrrhus, once it hits, it really does hit like a truck. But anyway, so the natural selection can be used also in a Scipio March, whatever your Scipio has, even if he is in the might heroes with Miyamoto, so natural selection can also be very, very good. So as I've said, for more damage on your criticals, your main focus are increasing the damage output, and to get that, you need percentages on your damage output from your sweep blade. So now thunder is a different thing. The only thing I can think of that thunder is going to be pretty useful, or I use thunder really, is I use thunder on my Pyrrhus, then I have still a natural selection. So somewhere in the fight, you will be able to still get a bonus buffs of damage. So that's what this thunder can do. It can also work in the scenario of Miyamoto in a way wherein, for example, you did crit during those times, because thunder does have a huge damage escalation of percentages here, as you can see. But thunder is my least priority, to be honest with you guys, but it does help with the damage boost scaling. Now, another thing here that kind of looks like thunder is your charge. So charge here though is only on the first 3 signature skills. It also did help with Pyrrhus when you want damage burst at the first go of the fight. The only downside of this charge is, for example, your opponent is using for example, a tranquil water. So it will block already those amount of damage, especially if they're using the resistance. They will block already those. But the problem, another problem you're going to actually get from charge is, once that charge is finished, you don't have any other damage output that you can get. The only saving grace though is if you have also a natural selection. That will help out in the process. But if you need really to have that burst on the first few seconds, especially if you're using a Scipio and you did crit during those first 3 instances of the fight, I don't really recommend this on Ramesses though. I don't really recommend on Ramesses. Ramesses is like continuous damage output, so you need calculation for me with Ramesses, or with Ramesses and with ACPO. That's what I want you guys to do. Now with charge though, you can use this on Miyamoto, you can use this on Pyrrhus. That's what charge can do. It can help with that, but make sure you have at least a natural selection to back up the damage output, you know, of the march. So that's about it. Now mutual aid right now is kind of a thing that I think will get your Confucius really going. If you're a Confucius user, mutual aid really is a good one for you, to be honest. Like it doesn't have like the explosiveness damage reduction of the resistance on the first go of the fight, but it will increase your healing effect by your Confucius, because Confucius has a low healing effect, but he does a lot of healing because of the frequency of heals. So the mutual effect can actually help you out in there. Plus, you will always have those damage reduction. So mutual aid actually is a good adornment for your Confucius. So yeah. And Headhunter though is what I say a free-to-play or friendly adornment, because it's you know, you're a free-to-play player, you will always focus on one troop, right? So Headhunter will help you out because it has one of the highest damage output even in the first go of the fight here. But you just need to attack one troop. So, but anyway, it does give you 9% right off the bat. Compare it with Wavebreaker, 6%. And you need to actually stack it up before you get the 6%. Compare it with Calculation, you get 6.15%. And to be honest with you guys, you're going to wait another 3 stacks before it happens. Okay, that's the difference on it. Now, Charge though, on the other hand, has a higher one, but as I've said, it's only 3 attacks. So as I've said, free-to-play player, low spender. Headhunter with 9% here is like one of the highest, to be honest with you guys, when it comes to that one. Now, another one is Thunder, yes, but it has 70% chance to increase the hero's next skill damage. With your Headhunter, you will always have that damage. You will always have that damage. It can be used with your you know, commander skill, normal attack. So this is pure damage. Any type of damage you do, any time of the day, you can have that amount of damage. I use this sometimes though. That's why I have this at purple already on my adornment. And I use it sometimes in the field though. When I just focus on some players that I really want to burst in the same time, and that I don't really need to think of anybody else or anything else really. So I use Headhunter, especially with my Miyamoto. Oh my god, that is like a match made in heaven with my Miyamoto. Blood Rage though, I don't really use it. For those of you guys who are using Blood Rage on a Ramesses, I don't think that you are getting the gist of your Ramesses skill. That's what I'm going to say. So I don't really use Blood Rage in any of my troops. So resistance is always there. I always have 1. I never go out on the field without at least one resistance. So Radiance though, make sure that you don't use Radiance. Radiance is working Arthur. Okay, Blazing Edge. I don't really like Blazing Edge on my Miyamoto. Look at the chance though, 45%. I don't really like it on my Miyamoto. Even the scaling of the skill damage, look at that. I don't know why it's pretty low, but I don't really like it. So yeah, those are my choices for my adornments. So as I've said, only use Starlink. If you are, for example, pure tactician, you don't have Scipio, you can use Starlink. That will be better choice. For example, especially if you have Zhuge, you will increase more of your strategy, and this has a strategy bonus. Starlink with Ramesses, with Zhuge, with Charlemagne, for example, or Confucius, is actually very, very helpful. So Starlink. Now, natural selection for me, you can use on either Miyamoto or Ramesses themselves, or another hero that can actually carry the natural selection, so that it can still boost your Miyamoto and Ramesses. And for those of you guys who wants to use natural selection also, that can be a backup or a secondary adornments for charge and thunder, as I've said, because those two needs that backing up of the at least the additional damage here if you trigger that one during the times that your thunder and your charge doesn't have its effect anymore. So yeah, and for me, I'm using right now calculation as my main go-to for my Pyrrhus, and it's actually great. So yeah, don't forget, if you have Scipio, more on what you can do is percentages of the damage, not your star link. If you have your Ramesses, Zhuge, and Confucius, your best go for me is Starlink. Now, also for Pyrrhus, I do use Starlink. Since I don't use Scipio, I also do use the Starlink. The only problem with the Starlink is it will only be useful for once every 3 seconds. But for example, you have my build. I have Charlemagne in there. How many skills do you have during those times? For example, you triggered 4 activations of the signature skill of Pyrrhus in one turn. That's 3 seconds, and during those times you will only have 1 activation of Starlink. If you, for example, had like Headhunter, let's say you had a Headhunter on Pyrrhus, and during those times, as I've said, Headhunter has multiple times that you can use this because it's a permanent damage increase when you already have this. So for example, you did do 4 times of skill activations for your Pyrrhus. Your 4 times of activation is or has the 9.23%. For example, you have this at the lowest level, you will already have that times 4. That's like almost 40% of damage increase rather than just 1 activation of the Starlink. I think you can actually already picture what I'm doing, what I'm trying to say here. So yeah, that's why I do use Headhunter and during those times sometimes. But I still do intend to switch from there and then to calculation. So yeah, my first tier choice for Pyrrhus is actually calculation, and then next is Headhunter or Charge or Thunder. Those are the things that I use. I rarely use Starlink on my Pyrrhus. Now, for Ramesses, what you want is, if you are a pure tactician build, Starlink. If you have a Scipio, you can use Headhunter or calculation. That's the only thing you need for your Ramesses. Now, if your Ramesses is with a Scipio, disregard the Starlink, focus on Headhunter and or calculation. But Headhunter for me, if you have a Scipio, is really, really good. It's very underrated. The Headhunter is very underrated, that's for sure. Especially on the first turn, because on the first few turns, on the first few seconds, you will have already a chance to do critical. And once you do have the critical though on the other turns, you will and you have your Headhunter, you will increase every single bit of damage your critical does, because as I've said, this is a permanent increase when you have equipped the Swift Blade. So that's the thing. Now, if you are using a Miyamoto though, what I want you guys to get for the first one as my first tier is actually your Headhunter. That's number 1 choice I have. The second one is Wavebreaker. That's the second one I use. Wavebreaker on my Miyamoto. So those are the first 2. The third one though is pretty interesting. I use Charge. That's the third one. The third choice I use is Charge. And of course, as I've said, I forgot to tell you guys, is the natural selection can also be used on your Ramesses, as I've said, but make sure you only use the natural selection as secondary to your main adornment. So it's like just a support adornment, but it does really help. Also, same thing, if you're using a Charge on Miyamoto, you must have at least natural selection to have backup damage output and defense in there with your Miyamoto. So lastly, Thunder. Always the last one for me is Thunder, to be honest with you guys. But I do have a stretch in the game wherein I use Thunder for a long time, and it does really get sometimes when there is a time that I did the most damage and then the Thunder was activated, it does burst in a way, but it's a very rare occasion. So right now my eye is on Charge. I'm doing a Charge and a natural selection. in the coming days. I'm going to show it to you guys once I have those. Wherein are you going to choose between Swiftblade and Mystic Mirror? So for me, you guys, I think you only need like 1 damage adornment, so just choose Swiftblade only once, then 2 Mystic Mirror. And once you know, because these are mostly damage reduction or defense. Plus, once you get to level 60, those are damage reductions, and you need 2 of those. Or if you got 2 of those, you're going to be really tanky. Now you need just Swiftblade for just your main hero because he is the main damage user or the main damager in the March. So there you go. And hopefully you did learn something from this video, you guys. Maybe some of you guys have been a swordsman yourself for a long time. If you do have suggestions, recommendations, or other opinions about this topic, please leave them in the comments down below. And I know that a lot of players are going to benefit from what you're going to say. And you know me, anything you put on the comments, I'm going to respond and we're going to talk about it. And if you want more breakdown or deep dive with guides and tips, kindly click on the video on your screen right now and check it out. And as always, squad, have a great day too, everyone. This is your Titobods, and I will see you in the next one.